Hello and Merry Christmas! In this video we are going to do a quick digital painting in Photoshop where I'll show you how to draw and paint a cartoony Cuphead-inspired Christmas candy cane from scratch. This is not a full Photoshop course and it's not meant to be overly polished or academic. It's meant to be an over-the-shoulder digital painting tutorial. Chill, practical and yet straight to the point. I'll assume you already know the basics. How brushes work, layers, clipping masks, blending modes like multiply. This tutorial is also software agnostic, so you are free to use any digital painting app, Krita, Paint Clip Studio, even Procreate. With that out of the way, grab a coffee and let's jump in. First of all, I suggest you crank up the brush smoothing if your strokes are wobbly. Personally, I like working around 38% smoothing for this kind of sketchy, cartoony line work. I encourage you to experiment and decide which one works best for you. Here is the easiest way to draw a candy cane. Draw a large question mark. Then draw two more like so. Erase the middle line. Now just close the gaps at the top and the bottom using a C curve. That's it, core shape established. Next, place single curved lines following the form for the stripes. Don't worry about the thickness yet. Once the spacing looks reasonable, and I heavily suggest using reference for guidance, close each stripe at the top and bottom, then roughly erase the excess. If something looks off, no problem, erase it, redraw it, undo if possible, or just transform it later, no stress, this is still the draft phase. I'm not happy with those strokes, so I'll undo them real quick. Having the toolbox or any art remote in general here makes a huge difference because the workflow feels much more streamlined and distraction free. Now, if you want to make this candy cane a bit more interesting, add a small bulge near the top, wipe out these three lines. Next, add two simple ellipses for the eyes. Shaded circles for the irises. And a couple of C curves for the smile. A few short strokes for teeth. And suddenly you've got this slightly mischievous, almost sinister grin. I encourage you to spend some time tweaking these little strokes to get more interesting personality. Okay, I think that's enough. I'll also throw in a cartoony nose and some eyebrows. Nothing fancy, just simple shapes. I'm going to use a combination of selection tools, free transform, warp and liquify in Photoshop to tweak the expression a bit more. And notice something here. Throughout this entire facial tweak, I never once took my hand off the pen or reached for the keyboard because almost everything I need is mapped to the toolbox controller. One hand on the controller, one on the pen, zero interruption. This is honestly the biggest difference. Traditional keyboard shortcuts constantly break your flow, especially when you're painting on a tablet, and it could get ugly when you're working with a large display pens where there's a war for your disk space. When you are doing digital painting in Photoshop, even these small interruptions here and here will add up. Having tactile controls right under your hand keeps you focused on the job, not on remembering key combos. So yeah, if you are thinking about a Christmas wish list, this one worth considering. It's definitely not cheap, but well worth the return on investment. That one I can promise you. Alright, the sketch feels good at this point. You could stop here if you want, but I'll go ahead and start coloring. I'll be using simple cell shading for this. I won't go deep into the theory here, so I'll speed through the rest of the video. If you want to learn cell shading and coloring fundamentals properly, I will leave two great videos in the description, one by Picat and one by Alex Font. I started by creating a new layer and calling it something like color base. I'm not refining the line art here. This is a quick digital painting tutorial, so we will keep things loose. Basically, I'm blocking in flat colors with a combination of a solid brush and paint bucket tool where appropriate, with sample all layers turned on. If there are small gaps in the line art, no big deal, I'll just paint those areas manually. As for the colors, the stripes stay red, the white gets a slightly gray tint so it does not look flat, and the eyes and teeth stay clean white. Now comes shading. I'll add a new layer, set to multiply, clip to the base colors. I'll sample a neutral gray and assume the light source is coming from the top left, so shadows fall toward the bottom and right. This is very simple cell shading, no fancy blending, just enough to give the candy cane some volume. Around the eyes and mouth, I'll add a bit more shadow to help sell the form. Next, I'll create another clipped layer and set it to overlay or screen. Feel free to experiment and see what looks best. Using a slightly brighter gray, I'll paint highlights where the light hits most. This adds a bit of shine, a more believable 3D feel, and that clean illustrated look. Finally, I'll add a simple cast shadow on a layer underneath the character. And that's it. This painting could definitely be pushed further. Cleaner line art, more polish, reflected light, but I'll stop here and leave the refinement up to you. If I wanted super clean lines, I would normally take this into Illustrator or Inkscape for vector line art, then bring it back into Photoshop. But for fun, paint-free Christmas illustration, this approach works perfectly. Spend some time refining it if you want, and I'll see you in the next lesson.